Welcome to the Life Self-Mastery Podcast, where we bring in entrepreneurs who have created online businesses and improved their lifestyles. Here's your host, Rohit Malhotra.
Hi everyone, I'm Rohit from lifeselfmastering.com, and today we have Nikhil Gopalani, who leads Deal Team at Republic, whose mission is to democratize angel investing. Republic is a part of a family of startup platforms, together with AngelList, Product Hunt, and CoinList, which is one of the most trusted online startup ecosystems in the world. Nikhil is an alumni of Fisher School of Business. Welcome to the show, Nikhil.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me and being a big supporter of Republic. Rohit.
Awesome. Yeah. So can you share your background, and how do you become the US and what you're interested into investing?
Yeah, definitely. So grew up and I was born in Mumbai, actually near Thane, and came to the US pretty early. Grew up a fairly normal childhood, nothing crazy, but grew up in the Midwest in Ohio. Saw a lot of interesting things happen there, but was one of those kids that was very entrepreneurial from the get-go. I would do the lemonade stand, did babysitting business, did paper origami business. I did a bunch of different things and was in love with it. Eventually, fast forward a few years, and volunteered a lot in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, built a brand for myself as a young, middle school type kid. And then eventually was able to go to Ohio State University, where I studied business until I actually dropped out to go to Silicon Valley and help do an ed tech company. So I guess that's my start. Started a small fund called Ambition, where we've invested in 16 companies over the past 5 years. And during that time also invested on the behalf of Orange, and Orange Fab, which is probably $50 billion a year French telecommunication company. Invested out of their accelerator program in a few really cool companies, and after that joined Republic. I guess to the second part of your question, what kind of deals do I like investing in? I would say, and it's all different lenses. So personally, I really like companies that are in it to build, businesses in the long run. They're not just trying to, grow fast and see if they can hit $1 billion in a few years. And if it doesn't work, sorry, we tried. I like people who really understand their business, unit economics, are building profitable businesses and have a good game plan for how they're going to accelerate that at some point, but it may take a little bit longer than what a normal VC looks for. On the Republic side, we're looking for really interesting and cool businesses that have, some sort of stability, that have a user base, that have a community, and they feel like they want to empower that community by allowing them to own shares in the business. And so, we're looking for this kind of B2C typically, but sometimes B2B, but normally businesses that have consumer-facing sites looking to really, help evangelize those people by letting them invest in their business.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, you're an Indian origin kid who dropped out of college. So did you face problems when you decided to quit and you want fund and get into investing?
Yeah, no, I definitely faced problems. My dad studied at IIT in India, and so education is what got him out of a lower income family, and it was a big proponent to why he came to the U.S. and a lot of his success. So I have full respect for that process because I know it's a great, especially in India with the IIT exams, right? It's a great equalizer for people who are just working their butt off and super smart. But I think for me, the problem was in the US, it's very a system of if you have money, you can get into great places. And or like, options if you are super, super brilliant and, you can get into a lot of different schools. But I also felt like even though I'm Indian and I'm supposed to be good at school, right?
Yeah.
I was never good at learning the traditional way. I love to learn by doing things, through failing, through these experiences, and taking it and continuing my learnings after. So it was tough discussion with my parents. I mean, they're pretty upset at the time, and now they've come around it. And, like Indian parents, at the end of the day, they care about their kid. So, it was tough in the beginning, but it's after 5 years, 5.5 years, it's gotten much, much more better.
Okay, and do you like operating companies, or you talked about your childhood days when you were you started a couple of small or side hustles along the way. So do you enjoy more the investing part, or do you see yourself as an operator a few years down the line?
A great question, Rohit. So I would say, for me, I truly enjoy supporting entrepreneurs. So I was, as a kid, I was reading biographies on Steve Jobs, on Bill Gates, and I was always curious at what did these people do young? That's what were the characteristics that if someone were to tell this guy is going to be something, or this girl is going to be something, what are those traits? And the thing I really found out was that they had a natural inkling for doing what they wanted to do very, very young, even in a much small level, right? And so I think that for me, I was always fascinated by these entrepreneurs, these crazy people who are risking not only, financial, but reputational stuff, family stuff, to go and build these companies that, is pretty well known may fail, right? And I just felt like these people are artists, they're, magicians, they're geniuses, and my goal from the start was to support them. And I think I realized that I couldn't build a McKinsey for startups because startups don't have money. So venture capital is really an industry where I put my money where my mouth is, right? If I invest in something, I'm consulting, I'm helping this entrepreneur for the next 7 years, potentially get to their next level. And so I see myself kind of as an operator investor, where I want to invest in a few businesses, put in a lot of money in each one, not the whole spray and pray model, but, invest in maybe 15 businesses total out of a fund, and really get my hands dirty with each one, and even spend a day or two out of a week and or out of a month in their offices and really be a part of their success. So it's kind of a mixture, because I enjoy working and operating, but I also enjoy the flexibility of working on many different projects.
So let's talk about Republic. So Republic is a equity crowdfunding platform, and is it more? Are the startups there? Are they more early stage, seed stage, or late seed stage? Looking to raise the next round.
Yeah. So the average, the median valuation cap is about 5 million, which is typically right in the middle of seed stage. So I would say what we're really looking for, right, more than the stage itself, it's the health of the business. So you could be a serial entrepreneur, someone who's done many great things and just start a business without like any money raised, without anything. But you've proven yourself as an operator, and we believe that that is an investable opportunity, right? Because at the end of the day, a vast majority of what makes a company successful is the team. And so I would say that's a big piece of it. And then I would say also, like, because you're that early on, we know that you're not just going to run out of money and quit in like 6 months. So because we're raising money from the public, right? You have to, there's the SEC oversees things, and we work closely with FINRA, which is essentially division of the SEC. And so because of that, we have to really make sure the companies that come on here have good runway, are stable, either because they're serial entrepreneurs and they're just starting, or because they have, they're profitable, or they just raised money and they're interested in working with us to allow their community to invest. So it's more on the mindset and the stability of the company than the exact stage per se. But to answer your question directly, it's average, the median valuation cap is 5 million.
Okay, 5 million. Okay. So you lead investments at Republic. What do you look for in an entrepreneur? A lot of people talk about team is everything, but do you look at the credentials of the team, in the sense like somebody's from Stanford or Harvard, somebody's worked in large corporates like McKinsey's, or they've worked in high growth startups? Do you look at backing those startups? Because I see at Republic you have also looked at backing startups from minority backgrounds, like for women entrepreneurs and other minority founders. So what do you actually look for in an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I'll primarily talk about the equity side. So when you're trying to raise equity rather than tokens and stuff. Right. But on the equity side, we actually have an acronym that we use to describe kind of our diligence thesis. It's called, it's kind of a weird name, but it's called IMPACT, but 2 T's at the end rather than 1. And what it stands for is we look at the investment terms. So we're trying to that's the I. We're trying to understand, how much money are you raising? What terms? What have you raised that before? How long ago did you raise it? What's your revenue? What's your cash burn? Because we're really trying to gauge the money in the bank situation, right? And see if raising from the public makes sense. Because like I said, we don't want to invest in something that's dire and they only raise 50K, and then all the public investors lose their money in like 2 months, right? So that investment term is a very important thing for us. Then we're looking at the market, the M, where we're just trying to see, is this a large enough addressable market? Do they have room for growth? What is the competition like? We like to look at that and understand that a little. That's the P is the product. So we're just trying to understand, what have you built so far? And a lot of these are early stage, so it's more so, do you have a good roadmap for building your product, and what are your thought process on that? The A is kind of the unique angle. So what is that unique kind of thing about your business, and what you're building that is, there's a big enough moat, there's a big enough differentiator that no one else can compete with you very quickly. And then the C is the community. So again, a big part of us is you're raising from your users, hopefully. So we want companies who have a community, whether it's users, whether it's readers, whether it's followers on Twitter, Instagram, right? Like, we want people who have a community that we know they can tap into to invest in the business. And then the first T is traction. So, obviously our goal is to see, if you have some sort of traction, some sort of, revenue or user base, is it growing decently? Doesn't have to be at the level of what a VC looks at, particularly, but we want to see if there's some sort of traction in the business. And the last T is the team, which I was mentioning is a big piece of evaluating the business, looking at the credentials, looking at past experiences. Do we really believe that this team can ring, the bell of the New York Stock Exchange one day when they go IPO, right? And there's a bunch of things that goes into that. I want to preface that impact, right? There's a lot of things in there, but the way we look at it is there's certain weighted things that, seem to be important. And some things like the investment terms runway is something, we have a joke internally where we say, if you don't have runway, then we run away. And that's a big piece for us for the fundraising component, and that's a security for our investors. So that's like a very important one. Market, addressable market, a unique angle. These are a little bit more flexible. And the goal is to try to see, of those, 6, 7 kind of terms, we want to see you do proficient, other than like investment terms, which I said is probably necessary. But the other ones, we want to see you at least have 3 to 4 of those be fairly strong, unlike a venture capital firm that's going to want everything, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not trying to have a VC lens, right? We're trying to be a platform. And so we do, it's an interesting mix of, and Ken, our CEO, says this well, where he's like, we don't have a VC lens, we have a credibility lens, right? We're looking for credible projects. Here are criterias that we think make projects credible, and we're trying to see, based on the entrepreneur's pitch, which one of these kind of criterias are really strong, which are weak, and we outweigh them in investment committee meetings to basically say, okay, let's work with this company or not.
Oh, okay, makes sense. So when you talk about revenues and traction, are you specific about the number of users which needs to be keep growing, or you're looking at nothing less than $50,000 run rate ARR, or you're not specific about it? Somebody's making even $2,000 in revenue per month can get featured on Republic.
Yeah, great question. I mean, we don't want to set like hard guidelines per se, because like I said, someone may not have any traction, but their team, he sold 1 or 2 companies before, right? So what we're really, I guess the very simple way of thinking about it is we're looking for a reason for an entrepreneur to build credibility, right? So either that's through traction because they have, $500K a year in revenue, or they have, about 40, 50,000 users, or they don't have any of those, but the guy sold 2 companies for $100 million before, right? Yeah. So these things, or they have a huge community that's been active and they're on forums and they're always talking about it. We're just looking for reasons of credibility for, any one of those factors for us to say, okay, this is an investable business because we see that there is credibility built in some sort of facet, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes a lot of sense. But I want to know, how do you get the deal flow for Republic? Do you look at colleges like Dartmouth College or Babson College, or do you go to these Y Combinator demo days? How do you get the deal flow for getting them on board?
Yeah, so I'll speak on both sides. So as an angel fund and as a kind of a micro VC fund manager, I would say a lot of the deal flow for that side comes from, I don't take I typically don't take too many random deals and calls from those. That's like very special. The entrepreneur is very legit and they just reached out to me cold for some reason. But typically, it's through referrals. So I worked at Orange where I source deals, so I still get deal flow from that community. I worked at VentureBeat, the tech news site, where I was the director of ops there for a little bit. So I get deal flow from, startups that are being written about sometimes through there. I'm an investor in 16 companies, and those people refer me deals. Other associates, other VCs refer me deals that may be too late stage for them or too early stage for them, and they send them over to me. So I would say referrals is a big piece of both the fund, a normal kind of micro VC, and Republic. We get a lot of referrals from our investors, our community, people like that. And that's a huge piece because, like I said, a lot of venture is, and this is actually a good way of putting it, is someone taught me that as a VC, your goal is to take something from taking something from uncertain to risky. And the difference between the two is that risk you can measure, right? And you're comfortable with a certain amount of risk. So, long story short, referrals is a great way of mitigating and adding some sort of measurable risk because that person and you've built a relationship with that person. So referrals is a big piece. For Republic, I would say we get a lot of inbound interest. So a lot of people apply because we have a big brand and we're doing PR and things of that nature. So we get inbound. We have a outbound engine we're building. So we are actually emailing, hundreds of startups that we like about Republic and hoping that they may be interested. We're doing a bunch of marketing. We're going out to demo days, like you said. We're going, we went to the YC demo day. I'm going to the Techstars Investor Week demo day in New York this week. We have people speaking at conferences all the time. So it's very multi-pronged, a mix of marketing, a mix of cold outreach, a mix of inbound interest naturally, and a mix of going to a bunch of these events and conferences and speaking and, advising entrepreneurs there.
Very interesting. But, what I've seen over the years is equity crowdfunding is a very new phenomenon. So, how would, entrepreneurs get convinced to come on a platform like Republic and not go to, say AngelList or, go to Y Combinator? Do you think a community of non-accredited investors backing these startups can fuel these startups like how people launch their physical product businesses on Kickstarter and Indigo?
So you're saying that can people come to Republic instead of going to like a YC and kickstart their business?
Yeah, YC or AngelList, because then you have a little more serious investors on board. Yeah.
Good question. So we're actually a spin out of AngelList. So we're it's interesting because a lot of the companies looking to raise from accredited professional investors go to AngelList. But if you're interested in raising from your community and the public, where someone can swipe $50 or $100 with their credit card and invest in your business, right? So we actually work in tangent. But to answer your question more specifically, we actually are happy to work with all these organizations, right? For us, the value prop and the way we kickstart your business in a very unique way is that we are the number one kind of leading equity crowdfunding focused only platform. So other people do a mix of some stuff, but we're the only platform that solely focuses on equity crowdfunding right now, which means that our 100% focus is if you can get your own community, 1,000, 2,000 people to invest $100, we've seen the ROI in how they help grow your business as a super fan. So, I would say YC, all these people, even VC firms, accelerators, they do a good job of giving you advisor capital, right, where they'll help guide you through your business, but there is no source of capital for your kind of growth capital with your own users basically powering your business and owning a piece of it where they become super evangelists. And that's kind of our unique way. So it's not really one or the other in our viewpoint. It's like we all work very closely in tangent. We just add different value with the capital that you receive, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So, I want to talk about exits. If you look at, Silicon Valley or tech startups in US, you get much better returns than say in Asia or in Europe for that matter. In fact, you get a lot more, unicorns in US. So, let's talk about exits. Has Republic got any exits, or what is the strategy going forward, and how does Republic make their money?
Great question. So, I think our vision at Republic is to build this Amazon for private investing. And that means that we're going to have many kind of businesses, right? So we're working with tech startups, but we're also, going to be working with breweries, vineyards, film studios, coffee shops who want to not raise money with equity, but do revenue share, or we work with tokens. So it's in the crypto space. So we're trying to work with all types of small businesses. And so, I would say our vision and our mission is to build this platform with hopefully hundreds and thousands of companies one day, where, people can support them either by investing equity or revenue or debt or whatever it may be. In terms of exits, we've actually had a very small kind of thing, but nothing noteworthy. And to be honest, we've been around for about a little over 2 years. So as you and your readers probably know, your listeners probably know, it takes typically 5 to 7 years to start really getting exits. So the verdict is still out, and we, hopefully we'll hit the promised land, but nothing super noteworthy yet.
Okay, and I want to talk about individual investors. What is your advice on how much money they should put into risky investments? Somebody who's making $100,000. How much percentage would you advise them to put into risky investments, like angel investing, or for that matter crypto investing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, giving a definite percentage is tough, but I would say, and this is just not on the behalf of Republic, right? This is just my personal opinion. I would say if you invest anywhere from 5 to 10% of whatever you're making, right? I think that's a fair amount to invest in risky assets, such as startups and other, token sales and other kind of crazy risky stuff. I would say if you do that, the biggest advice, more than the percentage, right, that everyone has their own risk profile, everyone's Like you should invest in more risky when you're young and then less risky when you're older. I would say the number one piece of advice I would say is diversify, right? Like having a portfolio of many different startups and many different holdings is key, especially in the startup world. So, I would break up whatever amount you feel comfortable investing, and break that into many different types of companies, and diversify that.
Okay, and initially in the interview you talked about spray and pray approach. I think Ron Conway made this approach a little famous because he invested into a lot of startups, and you're saying a lot of other investors also doing that, but you have a little more structured way of investing into startups, that you focus only on consumer facing products, or you avoid hardware startups. And what would be your advice for individual investors on industries about which they know and they should stick on to, and and should they look at exciting new industries like crypto or AI and machine learning and all?
Yeah, great question. So I would say it's hard because venture capital and investing in startups is kind of like a artisan business to me, right? The canvas is the market, and how you brush your kind of paint strokes on the canvas is how a company you invest in is building their product in that market, right? So it's everyone kind of has their own domain expertise, their own interest levels. I would say you should stick to industries that you're either passionate about, that you want to learn more about, or that you have domain expertise in for monetary return, right? And companies that you want to support. So there's really, if for monetary gain, having domain expertise and having an understanding of the industry and the revenue numbers and where you think it's going to go is important. But I would say most investors I see that invest in startups are doing it also just because they want to support the ecosystem, they want to support their friends, they want to invest in social good companies. So it's really up to the investor on why they are investing, and using different criteria based on that.
Okay, so let's quickly do the top three. What's your favorite business book?
Great question. I have to say I love Gary Vaynerchuk's Jab, 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 Right Hook. I love that book because that's essentially the philosophy that I've used to succeed, or I've not really been super successful, but succeed so far in my career. And essentially that theory of, in boxing, you don't go for the right hook to knock someone out first. That's how you get countered and knocked out yourself, right? You want to throw a jab to feel the distance of the opponent. You want to throw a jab to their stomach to weaken them a little. And then you want to throw a jab in front of their eyes to blind them, even if you don't hit them, so that you can go with the right hook. Similar in business, I've learned you don't just go for the ask, right? You have to add value 1, 2, 3 times to someone, and introduce them to people, and write a report for them, tweet about them, add value a few times to someone before you go in for any sort of ask. And that book really talks about how Gary Vaynerchuk has succeeded because of that thesis.
Interesting. So, if you could go back in time when you, started your investing career and got into Republic, is there one thing you would have focused on?
Yeah, I mean, I would say with Republic and being an investor when I first started in general, I would have told myself, let me actually go, earlier in my investment career, before even Republic, I would say that I would tell myself that, being patient, you don't have to try to deploy money fast. You don't have to try to get into things that you may not be fully comfortable with. Being patient, understanding the market is key to being an investor. And so I would definitely, say patience is probably something I would really emphasize to any investor looking to do startup investing.
Got it. And what's your favorite online tool, for example, Gmail or Slack?
Yeah, good question. Slack runs our life at Republic. I'm a big fan of Slack. I would say the number one tool for me though is this this Gmail extension called Streak. It's free, and basically it allows you to see who views, Mixmax or any of these other tools. It basically allows you to see who's viewed your emails. And as someone who sent a lot of cold emails in the beginning, I didn't have a network in the Valley to start with. I just sent a bunch of cold emails, and I mastered what you should and what you shouldn't, what timings, all this stuff, seeing who views your emails, how many times do they view it, when do they view it. Things like this actually provides really good feedback, as you do sales, emails and networking emails and things like that. So Streak has been really, really important actually in my career because of that.
Also, I'll put that in the show notes. So what is the best way people can reach out to you and know more about Republic?
Yeah, so, if you want to learn more about Republic, obviously go to republic.co and check out, our website and all the offerings we have listed there. I would say if you have a startup, or if you have an interesting thought or an idea, feel free to reach out to me at Nikhil, Nikhil, at republic.co. More than willing to check out any sort of interesting feedback, or like I said, deal flow. This is another way you get deal flow, right? And more than willing to check it out and see how we can be helpful.
Awesome, Nikhil. Thank you very much for coming onto the show. I really appreciate it and enjoyed talking to you. Awesome. Thank you very much for having us, Rohit. And he's for all the listeners, he's a really, really cool guy and a big supporter of Republic. So hopefully we can help podcasters and people like you pushing entrepreneurship forward, continually grow their business and help out there. So thank you very much again, Rohit. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Life Self-Mastery podcast, where we teach you how to start and grow your online business. For more information, visit Rohit's blog at www.lifeselfmastery.com.